So, my former mother-in-law is quite the human, and I use that term very loosely. When the kids were born, she bragged to my parents that she would get to be the one hanging out with the kids, watching them grow and all that. Because my parents lived in another country at the time, the day my parents got on the plane to go home, my mother-in-law disappeared as well. She did the same to her own son when he was born, so again, not surprising. From what I gathered while I was married to her son, she was a major S&T mom that left him with whoever for months at a time. It messed him up so very badly. Unfortunately for me, he hides it well. This woman has never been there either for her son, my ex-husband, let alone her grandkids. That selfish witch. I doubt they've ever had a thought of anyone but herself. Her son is an absentee dad as well. No surprise there, really. He learned that trick from his mom. So it's been myself and my long-term partner, his amazing family, who has raised these kids together for the past 13 years. The odd Christmas we would get a call from future mother-in-law asking if I'd bring the kids to her. It's not terrible as she lives about 30 minutes from us. 30 minutes, and she has never made the effort to see them at our home, though she has been invited every year. Every time we arrive at her home, she's drinking. Her husband is always drunk and gets mean at the drop of a hat. They then make comments comparing my partner to her son. No comparison. Like comparing a nugget of dog shit V1 of solid gold. But it's incredibly uncomfortable to say the least. It's worse when my partner doesn't come with us. That often left us scrambling to attend 5 Christmas dinners over 2 days. And this means we had to leave our big family dinner early or arrive super late because she and her husband refused to reschedule for even an hour before or after. The big family dinner has happened for the past 60 on the same day at the same time and has over 90 people attending. It can't be rescheduled. Her dinner is us showing up at 5 to a cold and half-eaten meal because they decided to eat early and not tell us. Other than we 4, they're the only other attendees. Her son won't even go, which is how I get roped into this every year. The last few years have been very rough with my grandparents passing on and my own parents becoming incapacitated. So the Christmas dinner crawl has dwindled to a more reasonable 2. Ours with my parents and my partner's family dinner. This morning at 7 a.m., my former mother-in-law called and demanded, not asked, that she and her husband see the kids who are now nearly grown. Kids said no, they don't want to go there this year and said that she could come here for our dinner instead. I obviously don't like her much, but I do try to hide it well for my kids' sake. And she is my kids' grandmother, and as such, they have every right to include her for dinner in our home. They also invite their dad every year, though he usually spends the holidays drunk and high, crying to whoever will still listen to him babble about how lonely he is. Yes, he's just as ridiculous as his mother. He just hides it much better. So we told her she's welcome up so long as she and her husband are not drinking. We've been through that enough with my ex, and we have no alcohol home because of it. She agrees, though you can tell she's not happy about it. I tell her we will be sitting down around 5 p.m. She lost her shit, claiming that it's ridiculous that grown adults can't have a drink with supper, and states that's what time she sits down with her husband to eat. You can just change the time, right? No. We have 8 people eating, 4 of which are traveling over an hour to get here, and damned if I'm messing with their schedules to accommodate 2 people who have never once accommodated us. I said it slightly nicer, but I'm sure you could tell I was on the verge of laughing at her. She got angry, hung up, and now has started posting on social media how I refuse to allow her ups to give her grandbabies their gifts. And I do have to say, she and her son are well off and play the extravagant gift game well enough to keep my kids interested, which is just another form of toxic manipulation. But the kids don't see it that way. Yet. So we say nothing. Joke's on her, though. Apparently, I'm not the only one that's noticed the shitty treatment of myself, my partner, or our kids over the years. My inbox is now being flooded with messages on my side, sending me screenshots of what she's calling me and my partner, telling me she's toxic. We definitely know. And how she steals photos from my social media and pretends like she sees her grandkids more than once a year, even though she can't tell anyone what grade they are in. Every message warns me to keep my kids away from her and her son because they're terrible people. Mother-in-law is on my social media, but I must have been blocked because when I look, nothing is there. As in, not even her name shows up in searches anymore. I'm so happy. Really. This was the best Christmas present I could have expected this year after 2 very hard years. Thank you, Santa, for allowing the trash to finally take itself out this holiday season. It's been a very long and frustrating 14 years, and I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. My dad died December 1, 2022. He briefly lived with me before his passing after a long stint of being chronically ill for the past 15 years. As his health declined, he relied more on my mom for things. Prior to this, she was never a great person and fully took advantage of his disability and mobility issues as he declined. For years, she claimed to be separated and divorced, talking to other men on the internet. She made claims many times she was going to move away and marry someone else. In addition, she took advantage of him financially. We tried every legal avenue we could find to have her kicked out, arrested, or force her out, but those attempts were met with responses that it was a civil matter and there was nothing that could be done. He made me a durable power of attorney and added me to all his accounts. This is a small portion of her abuse, but I promise her actions were no less than neglectful and exploitative. I tried for years to get my dad to move in with me, but he wasn't leaving the house he worked so hard to pay for. I brought him home on hospice the day after Thanksgiving and made sure his final days were the best they could be. After meeting with the funeral home to carry out his final wishes, I was told they required consent from my mother to allow me to cremate him. It was no surprise she initially told me no, and only agreed after I allowed her to keep the Social Security survivor benefits, which would have been hers anyway. I wrote his obituary and left her out of it. There was not a single word or mention he'd ever been married or had a spouse. I didn't feel she deserved to be recognized or viewed as a grieving widow when she spent their marriage as a shitty spouse in person. She lost her mind, and there were many questions from friends and family alike. I've spent years in therapy working through maternal narcissistic abuse and believe if she didn't want me to talk about it, she shouldn't have done it. When people asked about it, I was honest about the years of abuse my father and I endured from her. I've completely ruined the public image and victim complex she spent years creating. I might be the villain and idiot in this scenario, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Context. I'm a wine steward historian by trade, and I run an international bottle shop tasting room. I'm also hard of hearing, and I wear an over-the-ear hearing aid in my right ear that looks similar to sport Bluetooth earbuds. We recently made a commercial for the shop which I'm in. It's a pretty good commercial which plays on 8 cable channels in my area, and I occasionally get recognized by random people as a result. This will be important. About a month ago, I was in Albertsons. It's a chain grocery store pharmacy, getting cat food and ingredients for dinner. As a general rule, I like to check their wine section out to make sure I don't carry anything that they do. As I was bent down looking at the lower shelves, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I assumed that this was someone alerting me to their presence and their intent to move in close. Personally, I have no problem with that. Parts of my shop are fairly close quarters, so it happens at work all the time. No big deal. Then I felt the hand again, but this time it was more deliberate. I take this as a sign that this person is just tactless, and I shuffle left a bit. Then I felt a rather aggressive tap on my hearing aid, which popped a bit and scared the shit out of me. So I jumped up and turned to face my antagonist. Who was this rude and annoying person? A short, bleach blonde, 30-something woman wearing an outfit that definitely costs more than I pay in rent. If her name isn't Tiffany, then it absolutely should be, and that is how I will refer to her going forward. And her fucking voice. You know that Snell sketch where Pedro Pascal comes out of a coma and speaks like a valley girl on muscle relaxers? Imagine that, but without the eloquence and sophistication. Tiffany. Excuse me. Me. Yes? Tiffany. Where can I find Josh Rose? It's $10 a bottle of absolute crap. Me. I'm not sure. I don't work here. Tiffany. I saw you on TV. You're the wine guy. Me. Yeah, that's me, but I actually don't know much about the layout of this store. It's a lot different than mine. Sorry. Tiffany, you should at least know where the Rose is. We were standing about 15 feet from the Rose section, so I pointed to it. Given our height difference, I'm guessing that she just couldn't see over the rack we were facing. She sneered at me. Tiffany, was that so hard? If our roles were audible, mine could have been heard in Australia. I shrugged. Tiffany, they better have Josh Rose. And she was off. I decided to get while the getting was good, as we say around here, so I continued my shopping. I gathered what I needed for spaghetti, which took about 15 minutes. As I'm walking towards the front of the store to check out, I hear a familiar voice. Tiffany, they don't have Josh Rose. You said they have Josh Rose. Hey, I pointed you towards the Rose section. I never said they have anything. Perhaps you might find my friend Ray, the wine steward here, and make arrangements for him to bring it in. This is totally something that he can do. Tiffany, I'll do that. Where is he? Me, I have no idea. Again, I don't work here. Tiffany, wow, you're useless. Some wine steward you are. Me, I don't actually sell any of this, so I can't tell you much beyond the label and a general description of the geography and climate of the area it's produced in. Tiffany, who actually cares about that nonsense? Me, you'd be surprised. You should come in and check out the shop sometime. I'll show and tell you anything you want. Tiffany, oh, like I'm ever going to your shop. I'll go to wine shop 40 minutes away and get it there. Now, I could have done a lot in this situation. I could have told her that they don't carry it either. I also could have told her that they carry it at Safeway, about half a mile up the road. I didn't do either of those things. I wished her a happy holiday and walked to the register, and that was that. Until the next morning. Apparently, Tiffany had called the shop and left a voicemail describing my terrible service and poor attitude. Naturally, my boss asked me about it, so I regaled her with the story. We had a good laugh about it, and once again, that was that. Until 2 days later. I get a text from Ray asking why a crazy lady said the wine guy told me to find you. Apparently, Tiffany had come back in and accosted him, claiming that I told her to. I once again recounted the tale, and we also had a good laugh about it, then moved on. Once again, that was that. Until the very next day. My boss comes to my desk and says, I think that crazy lady gave us a bad Yelp review. Cue another audible eye roll. The review was scathing and entirely about my conduct at Albertsons. That would have been a good laugh, except that even as unhinged as it was, it still hurt our overall rating. Our office manager was able to contact Yelp and explain the situation, and the review was removed. Tiffany stayed true to her word, though. I've never seen her again, although her name has turned into a running joke whenever we have a customer with her disposition. And that, dear reader, is that.